the assumption seems to be if you have the right information, you're going to make the right decision.
Absolutely.
But it depends upon what's driving you. If you really want to get into that home, is it possible that people wouldn't have cared? All they wanted to do was get there.
Right.
And
I've had, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I've had clients who really, really wanted to get into this house. And when we looked at the numbers, I would say to the client, you know, this is too much house for you. And they were adamant about getting that house no matter what.
It's like, what do you mean this is too much?
I said, this is too much house. You know, we're talking about what you can afford monthly. You know, I'm trying not to get them into debt. And for the person who's really adamant about that, I said, then I'm not the loan officer for you. I can't put you
And
in,
you didn't do it?
No.
It's just, you know,
not
it's
and
like
have a conscience.
family. Right. Certain families raise their children differently. When the parents have a strong control over their children, then their children grow, at least during that time frame where they're not at an age where they can make wise decisions. The parents really play a big role. And you know, I'm sure you've seen loan documents. It's very hard to comprehend what they're all about. So here, I believe the parents were actually the lenders, the broker, who had the due diligence to explain everything to the borrower. And if this fell through the cracks, the outcome is what we're going through.
Well, it could be that some people are just so jaded as to say, well, you didn't give them that loan, because it would have been very easy to say, if I don't do it, somebody else will.
Somebody else will.
So why don't I just go ahead? Why lose?
Because
they want to do it. I've given them the information.
I can't with the true conscience.
They're really reputable brokers and loan officers.
Yes, there are.
Thankfully.
Well, I just said, if someone is that adamant about getting a house that I know is too much for them, they'll have to go to somebody else. They're not going to get it through me.
Okay. So it seems when you talk about, or just the idea of tips for people, just on the basis of what we said, what is it? Using logic or?
Well, first of all, education. Something I've noticed that EPA can do is the applicants know a lot about the loan process.
Yes, they do.
It makes our job a lot easier because as soon as, you know, here we were talking about ARM, there are a lot of abbreviations in our industry, and you know, it's at a point where we don't even need to explain those to the clients. When we say DTI or LTV, meaning the debt to income ratio or the loan to value, they already have gone through the training.
I think
so it makes it a very pleasant experience for all of us. And I think training and coaching and education is one of the key factors, which should have been there in the past, which was not.
Well, I had been asked ahead of time what the resources are for people. For example, you say the education. And I'm thinking, oh, let's say you want to buy a house. The opportunity is there.
What do you do?
Yes, exactly. I'm thinking your need is there, the urge is there. Now, do you take the time to train yourself and maybe lose the house? Or?
Right, I have a couple thoughts. So number one thing is the real tragedy here is that my understanding is that homeownership got to its highest point in the history of our country. Just recently, we're up to near 75%. And that was, I think, one of the root causes of this whole meltdown is that Americans started thinking owning a house is my birthright. You know, I should have a house no matter what. And you have these clients who come into you saying, you know, I want this house, I'm determined to get this house even if I can't afford it. And this is the number one tip that I think needs to really be communicated to the public is that we all have to live within our means. We have to live within our means right now, we have to live within our means in the future, and we have to be realistic about our earning potential in the future. And whether it's an option arm or it's an interest-only loan, banking on having more money in the future is usually a recipe for disaster. And I think this is what's happened, unfortunately. The other thing is that people were counting on the equity in their homes being there all the time, and when that started going in the opposite direction, that's when the real problem started, because so much of the wealth we had here in our country was on paper. I mean, that's true for not just for individuals, but also for companies. And this is one of the things, again, that I talk about is cash flow, living within your means, and really being aware of what your spending is so that you can meet your responsibilities at the end of the month, the end of the year. And that's, again, the number one tip that I would like to communicate to the audience at home is that you really track your expenses, live within your means, and everything else will naturally sort of be easier to deal with.